I love the way the First Gen Lounge makes me feel.
Because it creates a space where I belong.
Where we're able to create community.
The fact that it's a community.
It's a safe place.
It also gives me a place to understand different perspectives.
The stories of these individuals prescribe transformational perspective.
I receive encouragement, enlightenment, empowerment.
And also serve as a catalyst to just keep going.
Where we're able to be our true selves.
I'm allowed to be an unapologetic first gen.
And above all else, tell our story.
And every episode is unique.
I love it.
I'm your host, Dr. Eve, and I'd like to welcome you to the First Gen Lounge.
Okay, folks, we're back. Another fun Thursday. I'm keep telling y'all it's your new favorite day of the week. I am joined today in the First Gen Lounge with one of my new friends who's a current Ph.D. student at the University of Pennsylvania, Andrew Martinez. Hey, friend.
Hi.
How are you? Welcome.
I'm good. I'm excited to be here to talk to you all and share my experience.
Man, I'm so excited to have you. And like I was telling you before we actually got into the recording part of this conversation, I definitely admire, what you're doing. And I'm like, you at UPenn? Oh my gosh, you're badass. Like, that is really cool. Again, working on your doctorate at that, and then you're working on your doctorate in higher education. So that's really I love it. That's my background too. I love it. So I won't be long with, getting to it because I want to get to the good stuff fast. So if you will, please tell the family, who is Andrew Martinez?
Sure. So, that type of question, there's so many ways to answer that. But I think for the purposes of this conversation, I want to talk about how I ended up where I am today. And so I am Andrew Martinez. I grew up in the Bronx, New York City. I have one older brother and my mom and my stepdad. And I think my story is interesting, how I ended up at Penn and how my educational journey has been. So I grew up in a low-income household, and my mom did everything she can to make sure that me and my brother got the best education experiences that she could provide. So she actually worked at a Catholic school for free in order for me and my brother to go to school there and not have to pay tuition. And so that entailed 3 jobs. My mom worked the breakfast program, then she was a pre-K teacher's aide, and then she ran the after-school program. So me and my brother literally lived in our elementary school. We were there from 5:30 a.m. till about 6 p.m. every day. And the school really became our family. Then I went into high school, Catholic high school in the Bronx, St. Raymond's High School for Boys. And I was able to go there because I had an academic scholarship. And then about junior, senior year, that's when the anxiety comes up of what am I going to do after high school. I knew I was always going to go to college. I really didn't have any other choice. My mom made that very clear. And I always did well in school, but I didn't see myself as extraordinary student. I didn't really think of myself going far away for college, but my guidance counselor was very encouraging for me to consider all of these schools that I didn't really know of. So I applied to Cornell University, not knowing it was an Ivy League institution, but knowing that it was a really good school in New York. And I got in through the HEOP program, Higher Education Opportunity Program. And I think that's when the higher education interest started blooming in my mind because of the anxiety that came with going to college under this program. So I remember receiving my acceptance letter, and it was, congratulating me for my acceptance, but it had all these conditions. And so I Googled what is the Higher Education Opportunity Program, and I saw all of this information about how New York State is trying to increase the graduation and the enrollment of low-income students in the state. So I was like, okay, this is like an affirmative action type program, and then I would look at comments of articles written about it, and, people kind of throwing shade at students admitted through this, like, oh, you're taking spots from more deserving students and things like that. So I remember entering college a little I would say like not confident in myself, thinking like, I'm here because of this program, but my SAT scores weren't good enough. My high school curriculum wasn't good enough. And it definitely affected me in college. I mean, I graduated and I was able to, get a master's at Penn and then come back for a Ph.D. But those first 2 years, I got more C's than A's. I didn't really get many A's during undergrad, but I had a lot of growth as a person and self-confidence. I started realizing that the only thing holding me back from succeeding in college were the thoughts that I was thinking everyone else had about me. So I wasn't necessarily being told I wasn't good enough, but I believed that because of what I was reading and because of microaggressions and things like that. And it wasn't until I really spoke to one of my mentors, who was a counselor for that program, who said, you have to stop looking at yourself as an exception and realize that you're exceptional. And those words just stuck with me. I was like, wow, that's just an amazing way to think of it. And I didn't have the language in my mind, but now I understand that my experiences were really shaped by the way that I framed everything that was happening to me. So I started learning okay, I need to shift the way I frame things and, look at more positive things. Stop focusing on the negative, stop focusing on the failure. Instead, use that failure to see what you need to work on. So once that change started happening, rather than letting opportunities come by me, I started seeking them out. So I started talking to people about their careers in higher ed, and I decided okay, this is something I want to do. I want to be that person who tells the student that they're exceptional and not the exception. And so I applied to Penn for my master's. It was a short 9-month intense program, and during that time was the first time I was able to pursue research. So I was struggling academically so much at Cornell that I didn't really take advantage of research opportunities. I was just trying to pass. I was working my work-study job and just catching up office hours, trying to get B's and A's to help my GPA. So once I got into my master's program, I was like, okay, I need to see if this scholarly life is something that I can do. So I took advantage of some research opportunities at Penn, and I fell in love with it. I got to interview Black and Latino men in New York City urban schools to understand what they attribute their success to. I worked with Dr. Sean Harper and his anti-deficit approach research.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
instead of focusing on that failure that everyone likes to emphasize and report on the news, we talk to the high-achieving men and see how do they succeed despite all of the challenges and barriers that they face. So that was really fulfilling work, and it showed me that research can be fun and how I can meet myself through interviewing other people. So that planted the seed of wanting to get a Ph.D., and then I returned to Cornell to work with the student groups that I was a part of as an assistant dean, knowing that I would work there for 2 or 3 years to get some professional experience before returning back to Penn. And the opportunity, it was just too good to be true. After my 3rd year at Cornell, I was very excited about applying to PhD programs. And then my advisor, Mary Beth Gass, she had just announced that she got a grant from the Mellon Foundation to support a research project following students at Hispanic serving institutions across the nation, their journey into the professoriate. So these students want to be professors in the humanities, but they need to get into grad school first. So the program is all about providing them with social and academic support to prepare them from graduate school and then support them through graduate school into the academy. So I was like, I need to work on this project. So I really did all I could to prepare a strong application. I leveraged my networks. I reconnected with people to show them how interested I was in the project. And now I'm here as a 3rd-year PhD student, just finishing meeting with the 2nd cohort of students involved in that program. And I couldn't be any more happier.
I'm in awe. Wow. Let me go back for a second, because you applied to and got accepted to Cornell University and did not know it was Cornell University. Like, seriously? Wow. Like, that says a lot about who you are and how you are and the potential that you had from the jump. Because I would look at a school like Cornell and say, I'm good. Because no way, like you said, it was a good school, but you have really just evolved by taking chances on yourself. Would you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my friends now from my grad program, she always says, closed mouths don't get fed. And when my guidance counselor took that special interest in me to talk to me about some of my schools and what schools he thinks I should add to my list, I was just like, wait, he's a guidance counselor. He knows what he's doing. So if he's encouraging me to apply here, maybe I should just apply. And because of the program I was in high school, because I was a high achiever, they would help with college applications, and I learned about fee waivers. So I said, the risk is not that high. I'm not paying for these applications, and the worst thing that can happen is they say no. And I was pretty confident that I can get into the CUNY or SUNY system within New York. So it was really all the other schools outside of that were chances that I wasn't sure that I can accomplish, but I said, why not? I have all the support. Let me just throw my name in the ring. And I definitely got a lot of rejection letters. I applied to other schools that I didn't know were Ivy Leagues, because in my head, only Harvard was an Ivy League institution. But I couldn't have made a better choice. I was still in New York, even though it was about 6 hours away from home.
Wow.
My mom wasn't too happy about that, but I think it was a good experience for me to see, one, that New York is more than just a city, and two, going away from home, because I have a brother who's 2 years older than me. He went to college, but he commuted, so it was a very different experience, and I think that when I came back from my first semester and he was a junior, the amount of growth my mom recognized in me from being away for a semester showed me wow, going away to college is definitely a completely different experience, and especially for first-generation students, when you really have no idea what you're getting into unless you have friends who are a little older who can kind of tell you what's going to happen when you move.
So let me ask you a question. Considering all of your experiences from, again, that initial leap of grand faith and applying to these Ivy League schools, all the way up to becoming an assistant dean of students at Cornell, because that's a pretty big role to have, especially at a private Ivy League institution. Is there anything along that path that you wish somebody would have told you about, anything professional or about life, or just anything that you were like, man, I wish somebody would have told me this. I'm feeling kind of crazy. Like, why did they say something?
I guess the one that immediately comes to mind is, I guess, that bureaucracy is everywhere. So I think that, as a student, I wouldn't consider myself an activist, because I definitely wasn't in the front lines of demanding more from the university and whatnot, but I would support those types of initiatives. And really my engagement in student organization was pivotal in me wanting to pursue a career in higher education. So I think that when I was in college, I had this idea of how college works, and then I went to graduate school to study how college works, and then I went on to work at a college, and there was this major disconnect.
This is not how college works.
You don't really get a sense of the bureaucracy until you're in it. So I love Cornell, and I always love my alma mater, but I did get a little tainted side of it as an administrator, realizing that a lot of the progress students want and administrators want is often hard to accomplish because of these traditions and legacies and money associated with alumni, and it's kind of icky, it's not a nice feeling to know that you're part of that system. But even beyond just working in the higher education realm, I think that throughout my journey, I wish I knew that it was okay to ask for help. I think because I felt lucky. Like I was always getting opportunities. I was getting accepted at these schools that it's really hard to get into. I thought that meant that I'm smart. I shouldn't need help. That there isn't really help for me because people who come here are perfect. So a lot of my struggles throughout that whole time was because I didn't feel like I had a place to ask for help. I was just like, well, they already invested all of this on me, so I need to figure this out. And I learned that definitely in undergrad, but it was something that I wish that I had known day one of freshman year or day one of the pre-summer that I spent at Cornell to catch up with the normal applicant, they would say. Yeah, I think me hesitating to ask for help is what caused so much of my anxiety and my failure, honestly, in the first couple of months. But then I also reflect, and because of those experiences, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. So it's one of those things I wish I knew about it so I could have avoided all that stress, but I'm also grateful for it because it's what made me passionate about what I do now.
So out of curiosity, and assuming that you, like I said, you have learned to ask for help, what was it that helped you, or what happened that changed your perspective on being able to ask for help? Because I think that, I don't want to say common, but just considering the conversation I've had with several of us first gens, we have to be independent because that's what we know to be. So I love to hear that this is a theme, but also figuring out how people are navigating that space. So yeah, again, for you, how did you start to ask for help, or how did you learn how to ask?
Yeah, I think when I think about why I was so hesitant, I think it's really just the way I was accustomed of being at home, and just my family's I guess culturally we're just we can do it, let's not ask for help. You absolutely can't do something then. And when I got to Cornell, it was still in that frame of thought that I'm here for a reason. They must have accepted me because they believe I can do it. So I should be able to do this. I don't need help. And I think it was that mentor I mentioned earlier who I would have to meet with him at least once a month as part of the condition of that program I was in. He saw me struggle, and he had access to my grades. So one thing that I often write about is that my family didn't know at all that I was struggling in college because I was too embarrassed to let them know. And unlike high school, they don't get a report card or they don't get contacted by the administration. So whenever I would come home, they would ask me, how's Cornell, how are classes? And I wouldn't lie, but I wouldn't say I'm failing. I would say, oh, it's hard, but I'm managing, So they didn't have a sense of how much of a failure I thought I was and how that was affecting me. And at one point, I did break down to my counselor saying that I feel like a fraud at Cornell and I feel like a fraud at home. Because when I talk about Cornell, sometimes I'm seen as uppity or, oh, you're so smart, when they don't know how much I'm struggling. And then when I'm at Cornell, I'm trying to fake it and not let people see how much I'm struggling. So I think, being vulnerable in front of someone who I couldn't lie to helped me talk about it in productive ways and think about how to make my situation better. And I think once I started doing that, and I definitely have friends who are also in the same struggle as me, other students in that particular program, and some students who were older than us, so they were our peer mentors. I had a lot of people that I can relate to that helped me through that, but it really was me breaking down and realizing that a lot of the frustration I had was that I really couldn't be my authentic self at home and at Cornell. They were just two separate identities.
I really want to thank you because of your vulnerability and your transparency. I love that you're just putting it all out on the table right now and saying a lot of things that people won't say, because what you're saying is real and it's so resonant. And I'm man, this is why I do this show, because we're all in this together. And I can recall so many times myself, even now as a professional, as an entrepreneur, not asking for help or not wanting to, because I got this, I'm strong, I'm tough, I've survived. And just a reminder, even in this moment, to say it's cool. It's cool to not have it all together. And I think that where we're from, we're even so used to our parents appearing to have it all together when they don't. You know, when they're probably even struggling to take care of us or just to provide, but they put on this, I'm good, you're never going to see me break. So it's a kind of a passed down thing as well. But to be open enough to say, break down the walls and show your face to the right people, because that's how you keep going. So thank you so very much for that transparency, because I'm pretty sure that's not something that you don't just, oh guys, let me tell you this. It's just one of those, man, this is so needed. Gosh, it's so needed. So considering all the things that you did experience to this point, even in learning to be more confident in who you are and trusting your journey, and just really growing, because it sounds like there's been so much growth. What would you say are some of the things that have helped you to be successful thus far?
So I think one is what you just mentioned, is just me learning to be more vulnerable and open and sharing, my experiences to the right people. I definitely have a strong network of support of fellow graduate students, professors like my advisor, my former supervisor at Cornell. I still have a strong group of people that I can go to and just vent and not feel like I'm being judged, and know that I'm going to get some great advice. Or sometimes they don't have any advice for me, but they just listen, and sometimes that's all you need, just to feel heard and reassured that what you're experiencing is normal and okay. And then I think about the students that I have worked with through my program and as a staff member at Cornell. I think social media, as much as it can prohibit you from, being your best self, sometimes you can compare yourself to others, or you can see just a lot of negative things online that can bring you down. That's very real, and that does happen. But I think that my experience with social media has been more positive, seeing the students that I've worked with succeed, or hearing from them, or seeing them comment my pictures on my posts and saying, I read your article, this is amazing, and that keeps me motivated. I'm like, yes, this is exactly why I'm doing this. So I think social media has been powerful in that way, in helping me keep going and persisting. And then I just think about my family. I honestly think that struggle that I talked about earlier, feeling like I couldn't explain what I was experiencing to them because of this, first gen dichotomy of no one will understand me if they haven't been going through it. That's what I really want to research. So I think that my family has been a major source of motivation for me to continue, because I still don't think I'm there yet. I mean, they definitely have more insight on what I'm doing, and I try my best to explain my research and why I have to travel so much, and what's an IRB and why that can be really frustrating and things like that. But it's still a foreign language to them. So for me, my journey through the doctorate right now is figuring out a way to make this type of experiences readily easy to understand for parents and family members. Because what I've noticed is that my experiences aren't singular. A lot of the students that I am interviewing in this project talk about, yes, my family supports me, but they don't understand what I do. Or they don't understand that I'm not going to be a medical doctor by getting a doctorate, things like that. So I think it's knowing that the work I want to pursue is important work, and that it can really help others like me, keeps me going. And then having, supportive family and friends to go to, and just the people that I inspire, or the people who've inspired me, staying updated with what I do and encouraging me to push on.
If you will, touched on it a little bit. You talked about your research a little bit, especially as you are a Latino. And I don't want to not, touch on that a bit, because that is such a part of who you are. And what I love about it is you're doing something to highlight the experience of individuals like yourself in higher education. How's that going for you thus far, and how do you hope to change the future of education by what you do?
Sure. So I think that another major inspiration in me pursuing this line of work and my research is my identity development as a Latino in college. So I grew up in New York City. I grew up in the Bronx. Like, my neighborhood was predominantly Puerto Rican and Dominican. I'm Puerto Rican, and I never really thought of myself as a Latino. Like, I was just like Puerto Rican. And then I went to Cornell, and there aren't that many Puerto Ricans. But there was a strong Latino community. So I was just like, what is this word? What is Latino? What does that mean? So I would take Latino studies courses and like intro to Latino studies, and I kind of learned about like the development of the word Latino and like why it's important to have like this subset of the population, like Hispanic, Latino, whatever term you want to use. It was really a way to galvanize amongst the different communities to, get their voices heard and have government recognize them as like a constituency. And that's how I felt like it developed at Cornell too. Like, you had a small population of like Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, you had a small population of Mexicans, and then you had also like international Latin American students and whatnot. So I recognized that, and I started involving myself in like pan-ethnic Latino student organizations to learn more about the other cultures within Latinidad. I joined a Latin fraternity, Lambda Theta Phi, and it really introduced me to like the current state of like Latinos in the country. So I mean, I had a very naive, basic understanding, like, okay, Latinos are minorities, so basically that means we're most likely to be low income, most likely to, experience racism and all the isms and whatnot. But I didn't really understand the like economic and educational statistics behind it, like, how underrepresented we are in, in the government or in education and whatnot. So when you see those and you realize, hey, I'm one of those people, it's jarring. So I think that was also one thing that at first made me nervous, like, oh my God, could I do this? There's only 4.1% of all professors are Latino. That's very small. But then it's also like, I need to do this because it's only 4.1%. So it's definitely something that is always on my mind, and that's exactly why I wanted to come to Penn, because the project that I'm working on, the goal is literally to diversify the professoriate with more Latinos in the humanities. So we looked at all these statistics, we saw how underrepresented they were, despite being the largest ethnic minority group in the nation, and it's like something's wrong there. What you see mostly in the media or in research is like they're underprepared. But really, are we, or are opportunities just not afforded to that population? So it's definitely jarring, and I think that's also what motivates me to not only want to continue this line of research, but also make changes so that it isn't as jarring as it is.
This conversation and all of that, I'm listening and piecing it all together. And you are very fitting of what myself and others have talked about previously. But you are the very example of being who you needed. And I'm loving how every single thing in your journey has shaped you. But like you said, continue to be this person that you are and the person that you will be. Even from the perspective of wanting to do research around Latinos in higher education and helping them to be and to thrive beyond the 4-year degree, finding purpose in the work that you're finding something meaningful. If you go back and think about who you were, and you told me earlier you just applied to Cornell and then you kind of went from there. But man, if you could be who you needed for that 18, 19-year-old self, amazing how you are thriving, and even the research are so intentional. I am like such a fan right now. Like, this is incredible. Because it so aligns, and even the idea of recognizing at some point this does matter. That's kind of how I felt about the first gen work. Like, oh, okay, yeah, it's nothing, no big deal. But I'm like, wait a minute, we're special. There are only 11% of us that actually graduate from 4-year institution. So think that, and then if that's 11%, the whole picture, I'm like, I need to find the book, find out how many Latinos, because if it's only 4%.
I was just looking at this data. I think 33.84 or 38.34. One of those numbers. Let's just say around 35% of first-gen students are Latinos too. So they make up a big portion of that.
Oh, wow. So 30%, 34, 35%, just add 100. That's like, wow. Okay, so then think, so of that, we have to do the math. I know I'm
not a quant scholar, so.
Look, no, okay. qualitative all day. But even just like thinking from the perspective of 11%. So out of that 11%, what majority, are Latinos? But then again, to have that voice, to be able to say, I'm here and I matter and my voice matters and y'all need to know it. I think that's love. I think that's love.
Yeah.
Man.
And I think it's important to have these types of conversations that we're having with them, as you're like appreciating my time and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy that this conversation is happening. I'm also thinking about how these connections you're making, I don't even realize until I'm asked questions. So the fact that you're creating this like venue to tease out these experiences and show your guests that like, hey, look how you can think about your story and see how it has shaped you as a person. And I know my experiences have influenced my decisions to pursue what I'm doing. But, as I'm explaining to you my journey, I'm seeing all the connections and I'm like, wow.
Wow. And then you'll have to go back and listen to the playback and be like, man, I didn't even realize that, because I do that all the time. Like things that you even, like you said, you learn about yourself through interviewing. And I think that's one of the beauties of the work that we do, being researchers and being people who love the conversation and tell us stories. Man, so we're running out of time. So I want to ask you the question that, I just have to ask everybody because it's so important. At least I think it is. But the one thought that you want to leave us with, the one thing you want us to remember, what would that be?
Good question. I really have to take it back to that one piece of advice that really changed my trajectory. And it's that, too often we think about why we aren't good enough, or we think that we get, these amazing opportunities or these amazing chances out of luck. And I do think that luck is a part of it all, but I think that it's very important for everyone to understand that they have something to contribute. And, it's back to that quote, you're not the exception, you're exceptional. We all have a purpose, and sometimes it takes someone a little bit longer to figure it out. And I was fortunate to figure it out, I guess, throughout my college experience. I don't really think I figured it out entirely yet, but I know I'm on the right track because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And even though sometimes, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm like, I don't want to read another book, I don't want to write another literature review. But at the end of the day, it's pushing me towards closer to my goal, and it does make me happy. So I think my last thought that I want people to resonate with is to consider yourself exceptional, not the exception.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for your time, for your wisdom, for your encouragement, for your authenticity. Thank you for all of those things and so much more. I'm sure there'll be people who are going to want to find you. And I've actually have made some really awesome friends who are also first gen and have some really good platforms. So where could the people who are listening, where can they find you? In the social media space or the internet, if you want to be found now.
Oh, yeah. I'm on all the social media accounts. So my Twitter and Instagram handle are the same. They're at Drewtle, DREWTLE. Quick story about that. My name's Andrew, clearly. And everyone knows that I love turtles. Turtles are my absolute favorite animal. And I have a really old turtle. She's about 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, her name is Pebbles. But anyway, I was Greek in undergrad. So my Twitter and Instagram handle was my Greek name. So when I went into graduate school, I was like, okay, this is not okay. This is very undergrad-y. I love being Greek and whatnot, but that's not going to be my name for social media accounts. So I asked my friends, what should my handle be? And they were like, Drewtle. So it takes the Drew from Andrew and the ending of the word turtle. So you need to find
that works.
Yeah. And then I said, maybe, I don't know, but maybe once I do get the Ph.D., maybe I'll just capitalize the D and then have the dot after the R. So it's like doctor, but still Drewtle.
Clever.
We'll see.
Well, yeah, no, we'll see. Just try it out, actually, see how you like it, and then just change it back.
Yeah, right.
But thank you so much again for your time. Looking forward to all the great things you do. Good luck with this Ph.D.
Thank you.
You're so very welcome. And if you need anything, always feel free to reach out. Till the next time, friends.
All right, thanks.